Dr. Kim Lannon and Lou Blasi. I'm using your whole name today because you suck.
Yep.
How's that? How's that
There's
for a
no
start?
other way to put it.
So here we start. I'm just going to start right away. I was going to do a whole different part of the show, but I'm just going to start right out.
All right.
Come in. You're not in your normal chair. You're sitting in my chair because, of course, there's something wrong. I'm like, what's wrong? You're like, nothing. So I'm waiting and waiting. And then
deal with Windows 1.5
then you
over
left. Then you left my chair. You left me here. You didn't straighten out my camera. I'm looking over there. There's a blank glass. And then you've disappeared from the room while I'm talking to you. So I'm having a full-blown conversation with myself like a psychotic person. And then you come back in and I'm like, where were you? And you're like, I told you I was going over to do this. And I'm like, not out loud, you didn't. And then I said, well, it's like I'm living at home. This is what happens at home. I'm like, you did not say that. Oh, yes, I did. I'm like, not out loud. No.
Okay.
And then now you push me in like last week and I'm not there. What is going on with you? You need a session.
That's all I do. I
God.
haven't been in sessions in a while. I need a session.
All I know is everyone out there listening, my poor Lou seems to be sliding off the cracker.
Like I said, that's the way it's been for 30 years.
I don't know. And I said what I say in response. I said, it just seems to be a little bit more of a slide off the cracker lately.
Well, I'm getting older. Yeah.
Oh, please, with the old thing. That's just such a cop-out excuse.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, who's that? Was that you on the bottom of my screen?
Is that me?
Did you see what just came up on the bottom of my screen?
I did not.
Oh my God.
What happened?
Oh, create gateway factory default backup.
Oh, great. Windows 1.5 over there.
Okay.
It's having issues.
Okay. Well, hopefully my show's on. Anyway, Lou.
It's on. You just may not be able to see it.
What?
No.
People can't see my show?
No, you.
Oh, I can see
In
me.
that studio with that computer.
Oh, well, I can see me. My microphone's in front of me. So anyway, I wasn't planning to open up the show with having to make excuses for why the show is always off to a rough start these days. But, this is life, and we adjust. Right? You're supposed to have words to come back. God, forget it. I'll just
thinking five computers here. Things happen.
Okay, just don't speak then. Just do whatever you need to do over there, and I'll just do my show. Thank you.
I get it.
It's it is the Dr. Kim Lannon show.
I think I'm all right.
Okay. I'll keep thinking that. Okay. So good morning, everyone. Poor Lou. And then last week, Lou, with all the glitches of the Talk Money radio show coming up, and then you sent me the thing.
That wasn't the computers, that was me.
I know. I'm aware.
Yeah.
Yep. Midday last week, you sent me this big, long novel of a text saying, don't worry, but it's kind of a mess. I'm like, oh, boy.
Yeah.
I know. So,
StreamYard has a thing these days.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Or Facebook, one or the other. I can't tell which.
So anyway, good morning. So we have a lot to get to because I have had lots of shifts in my head about the show. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to start out with, it's a transitional program today. We're going to start out with something and then go into something else. But that was very profound, I'm sure. So over the past 6 weeks, let's say, roughly. So Facebook, I have, I belong to some of these groups, the local town groups, the local wildlife groups, the local blah, 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 whatever.
Yep.
Because I like to follow stuff, because I do. And I like to pitch in a hand whenever I can, for people in town or, that's what I do. So anyway, so about 6 weeks ago, roughly, you're going to laugh. This cat, here we go.
Yep.
This cat went missing. Now this is going to be at the end of the day, really about, I'm going to talk about cynicism, skepticism, and the mental health and the psychology around like being a hopeful, kind, compassionate person. So there is a mental health component to this. But I just have to set the stage.
Is this a local cat or
yes,
Minnesota cat?
Well, it's going to be about Minnesota later, but right now it's about a local cat. So a local cat. So this post goes up in one of my feeds. I'm not going to identify because I don't want people going and stalking it. But so a post goes up in one of my feeds about this cat. And of course, it's tagged with that. So the post that I saw was like a month into this process of people having followed this cat, trying to figure out whose cat it was. But the post that I saw back in the beginning of September was, oh my God, it's a cheetah or something, like really ridiculous, because clearly it wasn't a cheetah in the middle of my town. It was a Bengal, at least from the back end of the picture they could take, because that's what the picture they posted. And I'm like, so of course, immediately, there's about 75 posts on this. And I'm like, this is not a cheetah.
Yeah.
given what I do for a living outside of, my psychology career,
Yeah.
this is not a cheetah. And I'm like, first of all, it's not a cheetah. And second of all, now there's people posting like it's going to kill your animals. The fear mongering that comes with this little cat that looks like a cheetah. That's not a cheetah.
It's going to eat your pets.
It's going to eat everything, the whole thing. Yep. It's going to, okay. Yep. We can go there. So anyway, so I kindly, and there was no problem on the post. I kindly say, this is not a cheetah. Mm-hmm. And this is a Bengal, at least by look. And it has this big honking collar thing on it. So I'm like, very and I say, very expensive cat, clearly outdoors, don't know what's wrong. Everyone's been trying to help find the owner for, I guess, a better part of a month prior to this, maybe 3 weeks. So by the time this post goes up, people are like, oh, we see it here, we see it there. Anyway, long story short about that, my post generates a couple of people to backdoor message me saying, because I say, this is a Bengal, this is a very expensive cat. It probably has an owner. There's no way that this cat with that big either tracker or fence thing on its neck is just randomly out there. So the speculation was, well, did someone die, leave it out? Did someone just let it out? Is it out? And as I will quote the animal control officer, who was lovely when I was talking to her, she was like, it's not illegal to have cats outside. We know that. There's nothing illegal. People get up in arms about people who leave their cats outside or let them outside. As my vet would say, all cats who go outside die. Mm-hmm. So we have all different things. But from my perspective, it's get the cat, find if it has a chip, or track the tracker and then get it back to the owner, kind of thing, because maybe it's missing. Anyway, so these lovely people, I will just name Nancy and her husband, and then the neighborhood, who's all their family members. And I'm talking a very large area of square footage of neighborhood of like all these people who live nearby. They're all family members and friends. This cat is of Nancy, who's this wonderful person who loves animals. And then apparently the neighborhood does too, because this neighborhood was out in force trying to figure out how to help this cat, right? For 6 weeks, better part of 6 weeks, not one person, you would think like, all these little online things, social media, it doesn't tag the person. Like the person never tags in that, wow, everyone's looking at my cat, right?
Yeah.
So for about 2 weeks, this lovely woman and her family are like, texting me saying like, because I said, I'll help you if you can catch it, or if you can pick it up and I'll get it. I'll go take it to my vet, chip it, see if it's chipped and whatever. So,
I'm going to approach a strange Bengal. That's going to happen.
Well, this was the thing, is that because I knew it was a Bengal, I knew this was going to be a hard, because the likelihood is if it's an outside Bengal, as we know that Tammy Thies from Wildcat Sanctuary, which is going to be a transition here, we've talked about the littles and how if you have a Bengal, a Savannah, a Serval, all these, if they're outside, we're not domesticated as much as we are if we're inside. And they're hard to keep inside if you haven't gotten them as a kitten and kept them inside and done the thing and given them the room. So the likelihood is this cat is going to be woo. And let's just jump ahead. She was a little woo, right? Yeah. So anyway, so finally we get to the point where this lovely couple do get the cat, along with lots of neighborhood help. I'm clear across town. They text me and I come over and they've got it, whatever. We get it into the crate, and I'm like, oh, first of all, the tracker on this cat, I have to say, is bigger than the cat's head. I'm surprised that the cat didn't get it off its head because, but they've got it on so tight. Because, and I'm just like, that's a very large tracker with this little teeny head, and a beautiful cat, probably young, female. Her name's Gracie, beautiful cat. Mm-hmm. I only find out this because, when we finally get the owner, but so remember, no good deed goes unpunished.
Yes.
Here it comes, right?
It's true.
So I get the cat, and the cat is, we'll say, feisty, very Bengal.
Yes.
Bengal. Likely isn't pure Bengal because it has Savannah in it, has that Savannah cat, definitely, and is not well domesticated for sure. Just because I know, because I have Bengals, and mine are very well domesticated. They don't go outside. Especially because in this area we have Fisher cat, coyotes, and that was the big thing that everyone was talking about on these posts in the media was, someone's going to eat the cheetah. The cheetah's going to eat something because everyone thought it was a cheetah. Someone actually got into a thing with me about the fact that they thought I said it was a cheetah when I was like, girl, go back and read the post. I did not say it was a cheetah. But there's dangers out there. It's very different. So, but it's not my cat. So if you want to let your cat out, that's fine. There's lots of cats around my neighborhood that are out and they just do their thing. Not my issue. I'm just looking for the owner because this is a $5,000 cat.
Wow.
At base. So I get it. I haven't had the cat 20 minutes and I'm on the phone with animal control because I wanted them to know, hey, I have a cat. This cat came from this neighborhood. I just want you to know because in my town, I said, I want to make sure that people don't think I stole this cat. I'm looking for if you guys want to come get it, right? This was on a Sunday. If you want to come get it, or if you want me to take it to my vet. And so as I'm doing this whole call, thank God I was on the phone with this animal control person. They tell me, oh, we'll take care of it. We won't come out for this. This isn't a big deal. Go ahead and do what you're going to do, but whatever. But then 2 seconds later, the other animal control person who was in combination with it calls me and says, hey, I know that cat. That cat's owned by, tells me who it's owned by, tells me where they live, the whole thing, and tells me, take the cat back because the woman's going to lose her mind, right? As she's saying that, the woman drives in with her Mercedes into my driveway because the tracker, right? And so,
oh, wow.
Right? So she's on it, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, if you were on it, where have you been the past 6 weeks, right? Yeah. But anyway, so I'm on the phone with the animal control, and the animal control officer's like giving me, I'm not going to give you all the information because obviously, but the animal control officer was like, oh, stay on the phone with me because you're going to need me to be on the phone with you. Right. So she'd already given me backstory of like, this cat came from Florida. This is what the story has been that this is the 3rd or 4th visit to this house. This is not this cat and this, they have 2 that has been, there was a story.
Been a handful.
There's been a lot going on. Right. So, and people, trying to help this cat. So, and I become one in the line of trying to help this cat, but I was trying to help. Well, so apparently another person had picked the cat up back in June or July and wanted to keep it. I did not want to keep this cat. I just want to find the owner. Yeah. Right. And they apparently got into a huge thing about it. And there was like lawsuits talked about and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I don't want this cat. I just wanted to find the owner because we thought maybe someone died. That was the big thing for the neighborhood. It's like someone die and leave it out or, and I was very happy that I had it less than an hour and I could give the cat back because that cat was, I was like, whoa, we got a lot going on here, which is what, it's an exotic little, right? So it's like having a tiger, but in a little body that's not domesticated, but should have been domesticated better so that it wouldn't be the way it was.
It's a tiger with Napoleon syndrome.
Right? Yes, exactly. Yeah. So this woman was beside herself. John went out and tried to say, oh, wait, she's like, do you have my cat? She's like freaking out. And let's just say the mental health issues were present. I see. And that's what I'll say. Yep. And then I went out and I had the animal control officer on the phone and she was telling me information saying, identify that, that this is, every time I gave information to this lovely woman who was wanting her cat, which was fine. She was like, how do you know that? And I kept saying, I am on the phone with the person who knows you from animal control. Yeah. Right. Like we're trying to, and she's just like, well, how did you get the cat? I mean, ridiculous questions. Like, and so I said, I drove the cat. And they were, how'd you catch the cat? I'm like, the whole neighborhood over where you live caught the cat. Yep. And, and I'm trying to find you. So good thing you found me. Oh, it was my whole, so it was, there's a bigger part of the story in terms of just the intricacies of like how ungrateful and rude and disrespectful and unhinged this woman was. But, at the end of the day, I did a good deed. And as I walked in so the cat came to her. I was like, holy crap, this cat came to her, but was still feisty. And I was like, good riddance to the cat. Yep. But it's like, no good deed. Yep. Goes unpunished. And she, and I'm thinking, oh, but then the animal control officer and I had a long conversation because we stayed on the phone while she was there because she knew that she could be a problem. Yep. And then afterwards we had a nice long chat and it was a really good chat about the factor. And here's where it transitions. So cat's safe. Cat is an outdoor cat. So anyone in the areas that knows where I live and that surrounding area, note to self, the cat is young. The cat came from Florida. Their justification is that all Bengals and exotics go outside down there. I don't know how, because they have alligators, but nonetheless, there's no problem. They don't worry about the fox. They don't worry about the Fisher cat. They don't worry about the coyote. They feel that the cat will be fine. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Like, that's their choice. I don't care. Just as long as it had an owner that had someone to go to. Apparently the cat gets let out every morning around 5 a.m. It gets taken back in at 9 at night. Hey, great. It was in very good health. This cat was definitely taken care of. So the woman's doing fine. And I think the neighborhood's doing fine because it's all feeding it. But here's the thing. So in having the conversation with the animal control officer, we were talking about how there's so much of these, the exotics and the littles and all that. And, I've had Tammy on from the Wildcat Sanctuary, which led me into the fact that I do help them out. And I can't see that, but
that's Chris saying hi, Professor.
Hello, Chris. Hello. Hi. I can't. God, I'm blind as a bat. So the Wildcat Sanctuary has built, as you know, the Catio Town, and is in the process of building Catio Town out in Minnesota. And it's I would say it's almost complete at this point. And the reason why is because after they passed the Big Cat Act, which is for all the big cats, the lions, the tigers, the panthers, and all those things, jaguars, is so that you can't have ownership of them, right? Unless you register and you had your grandfathered in it, and you had to register them. Now it's about the littles, like the Asian leopard cats, the Bengals, the Savannahs, the servals, and all the cats that are really like the big cats in a little body that are being exploited in a lot of ways because they're big money. And, and I certainly, I have a 19-year-old. So I know that 19 years ago, had I known what I know now, this would have been a better thing, but she's like the best thing ever. And she's so not these cats, but Catio Town has built this huge enclosure that houses to be able to sanctuary cats. So a couple of years ago, the cat that was up here in Lincoln, Massachusetts, that was released because it was a lot. It was, serval, Bruno. He ended up being rehomed after they found him let loose here because he's a serval and they need, people can't deal with it. It's too much, they're a lot. And unless you have the big space and know how to deal with an exotic little, even though they're a little bigger than a little, they're more like a cheetah. To have that in there. So Catio Town has been built and it's almost done. And in terms of but it's still being built. So they had their 25th anniversary this year. This is their 25th year of sanctuarying big cats. And, they took on a lot of, the cats that came from Ukraine. They have the Ukraine 4 lions that they took in as babies and saved them when the war started. And then they have taken in, they just took in 2 new little bobcats that have a backstory. If you're interested, you can go to Wildcat Sanctuary and look at it. They both have, big medical problems and they're still kittens as bobs. And then, they take in servals, Savannahs, Bengals, people surrender. But they don't, these are really incredible circumstances of when they take in those. But the problem in this country is that we don't have enough sanctuary for littles like that.
Right.
Like, when they took in all the Asian leopard cats last year from the lady that had the breeding farm essentially in Texas, and she died and all the cats were in the house when she died. And then, they rescued them. And so now I think there's 6 or 8 of them now of the 40 that were there that are at Wildcat. So they're little, they're teeny, but they have care and all these things. So the 25th anniversary, there's a big gala, there's a big thing this weekend. So what I was going to ask of people is that I was going to put up on my thing, please help out Catio Town for the plight of these littles. Please, over the next couple of days before Saturday, I would love to be able to raise $2,500 to give to the Wildcat Sanctuary towards the Catio Town. $2,500 for 25 years. And please donate to my Venmo. I'm going to do it as a surprise for Tammy. If I can get there. I mean, even if I don't, I'm going to give her whatever. But if you go to my Venmo and it's on the screen right now, it's at Kim dash Lannon. So at Kim dash Lannon. And you put in the memo, donation Wildcat Sanctuary or donation TWS Catio Town. any of those things, so that you note that it's a donation, so that you know it's going to that. And it's a gift, because they are 501c3, a nonprofit. So if you put that in and you donate $5, $25, $100, $2,500, that'd be great. I'm just trying to reach before Saturday, $2,500. I'm at zero. This was just an idea that I started to have last night because I'm going to see Tammy. And I just thought this would be a really great thing to go towards helping out the fact that they're getting calls all the time on little cats like this little Gracie I just saw, about people who can't manage them. And so what happens is they let them outside.
Yeah.
I can't manage it inside anymore, so I let it outside. Now this $5,000 beautiful investment that you didn't know how to manage because you thought it was like a regular cat that you got from rescuing it, you didn't. You bought it, and now it's peeing all over your house. It's tearing up your furniture. It attacks you. It jumps at your face. Seriously, all these true things. I have to say that my Bengals don't do that, and have never. So, because there's a difference in how you raise them, right?
Yep.
But again, so I'm trying to raise $2,500 in literally a hot second to be able to surprise Tammy with on Saturday.
Nice.
So if you could please all go to my Venmo at Kim-Lannon and give whatever you can and put it, it's a gift to TWS Catio Town, because it's going to go directly to that. If you'd like a verification letter or anything like that, I can certainly get you one afterwards, so that it's not like you think you're giving me money just randomly. But it's to help out these kinds of situations, because there will inevitably be a call from someone like the woman in my town saying, I can't do anything with this cat anymore, or not, because they'll just let it outside. And what will happen is people will do exactly what all of us started to do, which was try to help the cat.
Yeah.
Right. And people that don't know a lot about these types of exotic littles, which is why they called me, is that people knew that I did know about them. People just don't know how to handle it and don't know how to do. And so, but Nancy and her husband were great. And so thank you to Nancy and your husband, which I don't know his name, but I do know his last name, but I'm not going to put his last name out there. But Nancy and your whole family and that whole neighborhood, I mean, literally it's got to be a dozen plus people in the neighborhood that were doing help for this cat for the better part of 6 weeks. And I just came in at the very last 2 weeks of just happened to see the post, which, by the way, the lady was like, I didn't see any post. I'm like, well, that's not my problem, but everybody else is. So
God bless them for taking on a wild Bengal or outside Bengal.
Well, yeah, essentially it is a wild Bengal. That cat is definitely, that cat is a lot. I mean, I see a lot of littles in sanctuary, and I see a lot of littles in general. And I'm like, that one definitely tops the top. So, yeah. And so.
Was it young?
Yeah, very. Yeah. My guess is it's a couple years old. There wasn't a lot of conversation,
but not reprogrammable. Yeah,
I
not that young.
All I know is I'm never a give up kind of person.
No,
and when I was in the enclosed room, this cat was in my possession for less than an hour. And I was immediately on the phone with the police going, I have this cat, making sure that you know that I didn't steal it in case somebody, because that was my biggest thing is like, right? Because it clearly had a tracker on. I'm like, I'm just trying to find its owner. That cat in an enclosed little space scared the crap out of me. And I don't usually get scared. A lion, yes. But this cat was maybe 5-6 pounds. And I was like, oh, he's going to eat my face. So he's going to lunge at me. And he lunged. She lunged at me. I'm like, oh my God, this cat, And so I was very happy that the owner was willing and able and happy to take this.
Chris is trying to buy an A with his donation.
Can I buy an A? No, Chris, you can.
Can I buy a vowel?
No, you can give me $5. No, those are free. Give me $5. Oh no, they're not free. They take money from you. You're funny. Chris, you got it. You want to help out those littles. So anyway, so that being said, please donate and help me out if you hear this in the next couple days before the 28th of September, so that I can give her something for that towards that catio town. That would be great. But in the meantime, it's the transition over about being hopeful and cynicism. I was going to talk about the psychology of cynicism and skepticism over being hopeful and optimistic and finding hope in things. And so we're in an environment, and I use this as an example of being hopeful and kind and loving and being good people, right?
Yeah.
I'm not even including myself in this. I'm including like Nancy and her neighborhood and the man across the street who kept saying, "Oh, I feed him and he's so lovely." Or she, the little cat's
Yeah.
she. And yet I wasn't looking for gratitude, but there is a point where you have to have like hey, thank you so much. No, there was none of that. It's, and so
Well,
how do
maybe
you,
she was traumatized by the last incident.
well, my guess, so that's
Yeah.
that's what the animal control person and I were talking about. It was a really rough situation about the lady who wanted to keep the cat because she was judging the woman for having it outside.
Yeah.
And it's like the animal control officer and I agreed, like, this is her choice, that she knows the risks. She knows that there's a possibility that the cat can get taken, eaten, killed. There were people talking about because it was a cheetah that it needed to be taken care of, and I was trying to obviously help from that happening by educating online, like, this is not a cheetah and this is not going to hurt your domestic animals that are outside, because people were doing the whole, like, take your animals in.
Yeah.
This cat's not doing that. Like, a cat was approachable, hence you could pick it up and take it, but she was feisty. But it's about the fact that when you do good deeds for something, like, I don't feel bad about what I did, but I felt bad about the fact that, like, when you do something good and you're met with someone with such trauma, you could tell she had some issues.
Yeah.
But and she had some trauma probably left over from that last lady. And I guess that was a big thing. Like, the way the story was told to me was nothing like the officer was like, "Oh, you did all the right things. You called us right away. You said you had the cat," the whole thing. But the lady was just like off her rocker.
Isn't that the thought process though? You did the good thing regardless of her reaction.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing is, and would I do it again? Yep. And I would do it exactly the same way. Make sure that I, called the animal control and call the police right away to say, I'm in possession of this cat. It's not mine. Because I watch enough social media and enough not healthy interactions with people who think, I mean, there's one social media thing that is just constant, that this woman lives next to this couple. The cat goes over to the couple's house all the time. And they show the videos constantly of the woman calling the police on the couple because the cat prefers to go over to the house next door. And this is the kind of thing I'm talking about, right? And the man from the next door is like, I'm just going to say Karen, because that fits.
Yeah.
Karen, it's your cat. It's a cat. You let it out. It's going to roam the neighborhood. It's going to come to our next door. And she's like, you're stealing it. That he likes you better. He wants to be with you. And the guy's like, then keep your cat inside. We can't stop the cat from coming over to our yard. And she's screaming at him.
The police. So silly.
The police have been called a whole bunch of times about the fact that this cat, and the police officer very rationally talking to the irrational was like, ma'am, Karen, you cannot expect that if you let your cat out, the cat's not going to go to your neighbors or other people's houses and not, like, this is what happens. She is so mad, and it's like a saga ongoing on like TikTok about this particular one. And there's other ones, but this is what I'm saying. It's like you watch. That's why I was very mindful to say, I know where this could go. And I was hopeful, but nope, this woman was right there with the Karen. So I was like, oh, the mental health issue was real, unfortunately. So, but hey, she's got her tracker. She knows where her cat is. Clearly, right on the spot, she knew where to come find the cat, which was great. And I was very happy because it made it less work. Because I was thinking, how am I going to get this?
Did you exchange phone numbers?
No, I did not. And I know exactly where she lives, though, because she told me her address, because she was unbelievable. She was unbelieving in the fact that anyone on her exact street, which I gave, she goes, where did you find, she was trying to test me. But the police officer I was on the phone with was funny. She goes, don't let her test you. You ask her, because any person could see that you might have the cat. So I was asking her questions and saying things that the police officer was telling me, and that was making her more infuriated because she was more like, how do you know that information? I kept saying, because I'm on the phone with the police officer right now, and she's telling me that this is who you are and this is where you live. And she was not happy about that because she wanted to make sure verifiably that it was her cat, and I didn't just randomly give this really nice cat to some random person. But then as soon as the police officer heard her, she was like, it's her.
It's her. Yeah.
It's her. I'm like, okay.
Yep.
But so here we go back to skepticism and doing good things for people and why people shy away. Like, right. So I had this conversation with not about this, but other things in the past like day or two with other people about other things. Like you do nice things for people or you do nice things and you still get kickback from it. And it's like,
But this is the perception of multiple realities here, because everything you did was fine. It was a good thing, but you don't have her history. You don't know her perception. You don't know her context. So you never know what you're going to run into, because another person is a completely different set of contexts and history and traumas and all kinds of things going on.
Yeah. And here's what I would say bias. Thank you, Chris. I think he's gone now, but thank you for donating when you do. So I'm appreciative of that. But and no, you can't bribe me for grades. Officially, you cannot bribe me for grades, and unofficially as well. I don't work like that. He knows that. That's why he said it. But
in life, that's just a great lesson, because you always think what you say, what you do is going to be interpreted the same way, but everyone's got their filters. You're dealing with a whole bunch of different contexts.
Well, and given that I knew for what I do for a living, that and combine it with the fact that people get really intense about their animals, not just cats. So dogs too. If you know what I mean? But people get very intense about this, but particularly if you've ever been to a cat or a dog show. I don't know if you've ever been to the the Kennel Club of America, or you've done to the whatever, the feline, whatever it is, those shows, right? The owner breeders and the people that do these big exotic breeds of cat or dog, like just these, it's a special kind of special. And Tammy and I had talked about it before, and Carol Baskin and I had talked about it on the show before, if you remember those 2 times, that there's a special kind of special, read through the lines on this, about there's a fanaticism, there's a obsession, a possessiveness to, there's a real, I don't want to call it a mental health issue as in a bad issue. It's just, there's a obsessive mental health component, right? So it's not always bad, right?
Isn't that true of the elite level of anything?
Yes. Yeah. And so when you, and there goes into the whole like Doc Antle and looking at people like Joe Exotic and people who go to these extremes of needing more of them to have more self-esteem, to have more self-worth, to have it's something that it's a talking piece, not if it's outside getting killed like a cheetah, but nonetheless, right? But it's I have this, I have, if you've been watching, have you watched the show Chimp Crazy, the new show that's I highly recommend that show. It's disturbing. So it's about the chimpanzees that were used, some of the chimpanzees that were used in the film industry in this one Tonka. And there's this big thing about this woman who was helping at the rescue where Tonka had been, put into after continuing on, and pretty well taken care of, but there was some issues similar to like the whole Doc Antle thing. But Tonka was taken, all the chimpanzees were removed to an actual big sanctuary that wasn't like a concrete slab with all of them together and pacing and all the terrible, awful things, right? But she stole Tonka, and she stole him and put him in her basement because she has this bond with him. And now it's a very interesting show. It's another part of like the mental health component of how people get caught up in having what did he say?
The chimp had a snack on her. Love it.
What?
Yeah.
What the hell is he talking about? Whatever. So it's another mental health component of the fact that like her commentary, and I don't remember which episode, was like, I'd give up my kids to have this chimpanzee come back to me and have this, like, like there's a intensity around this that comes with it. So when you do good deeds for someone, and you're doing a good deed for like an animal in these cases, or doing a good deed for a child, right? When people, you talk about, like, I'm going to liken it to sort of the DCF system, right? The Department of Children and Families, when they come in and have to remove a child because there's, a formative neglect or something is happening, it's very similar, and people get fanatical, but they don't get fanatical enough before they get removed to be taking care of it, because there's some kind of mental health component usually going on. In some of these cases, it's just abandonment and detachment. Sometimes it's just collective and hoarding. I call it relationship hoarding or children hoarding. You have these people that have children and then don't do anything. They're latchkey kids or they're passive parenting. There's just so many cases. So you could, whether you're talking about an animal or you're talking about a child or you're talking about just people in general, like not having good mental health components around treating people with hope and kindness and compassion, instead what's in it for them, or there's a self-esteem booster in there somewhere that makes it a little off. And so me doing this and working with, Big Cat Rescue for the years that I did, for almost 5 years, and then, having my affiliation with Wildcat Sanctuary, and then some other ones in the country, and then locally doing things for sanctuary or for rescues and stuff. There's always this mental health component that comes in. So I knew going in that helping this cat would be there, but it's just interesting that it was a Bengal, and it really speaks to the fact that, the human condition is so searching for these things to fulfill them, and needs external things to fulfill them, and wants, and, and there's so many, I'll get on the pulpit. There's so many rescues out there that really need to be rescued, and not, I know it puts breeders out of business, all those things. And if you want that, as Tammy would say, hey, you're going to do it, you have to be prepared to have the space and have the time and have the patience. And as she and I both said, I don't have rugs in my house anymore. Why? I have Bengals.
Yep.
There's a reason why there's no rugs, because Bengals will destroy rugs. Now I don't have an issue, right? Because hardwood floor is no fun.
Yeah.
There's something in rugs about that with the exotics, that they just love to pee on them. So, or pee on anything that has fabric that seems fun. So, I had to revamp my whole house after Kalila. Right?
I'm going to get in trouble for this because
here we go.
I got to draw lines where I don't want to draw lines, but there are certain animals that this stuff gets really creepy. Chimps, primates.
Right.
That's so close to human. It's like keeping them in your basement.
Well, right. And so,
elephants, even some of the SeaWorld stuff, orcas and dolphins and that type of thing. There are some animals that are just the lines are blurred. It's just too close for me. And again, I don't want to draw lines anywhere, because that's true of I own dogs. I know what dogs are like.
So yeah, I would say, I don't see, I was waiting for more of a cringeworthy moment when you were going to speak, and I don't see where you're off base on this. I don't think I think you're right. I think that there's a reason why the whole show at SeaWorld has been essentially banned with orcas and whales, and they're working on the thing with dolphins, and I've gone away on vacations, and people I'm with are like, let's go do the dolphin experience. I'm like, no, we are not doing the dolphin experience. They're like, why? I'm like, because you can see them out in the ocean when we're sailing, or when we're sitting on the dock of something and watching them fly by us, like through the water and sail, but we're not going into the captured pen. And I have to educate people still, even people that know. I'm like, they're kept in these little pens, but while they're performing, they're out in these bigger pens, but they don't get to go out in the ocean. I had one friend that said, well, what do you mean they don't go out in the ocean? And I was like, oh, blonde moment. Like that they don't call them back. I said, really? They call them back.
They think they let them go out for lunch.
So, it's the pay to play. It's the pay to play industry, whether it's because it feeds the mental fun. Oh my God, I got to pet a tiger. I got to swim with a dolphin. I got to ride an elephant. I got to, it's those things. It's, there's a reason why when you go on safaris in Africa, you don't get out of the van and touch them. It's so that you get to see them in their natural environment and you don't touch them.
Yeah.
Right.
But at a certain intelligence level, it becomes super uncomfortable.
Say more of what you're saying.
Intelligent animals.
Yes.
Like again, primates, dolphins, elephants, that type of thing.
And yes, and cats and dogs too, because you have very specific higher end breeds of cats and dogs that have that same thing. That's why the exotics are much smarter. Malinois dogs, like sheep herding dogs, you've got, I mean,
Yeah.
Chihuahuas, no, not so
Aussies.
much. Right.
Yeah.
So and nothing wrong with a Chihuahua. They're but it's a level, but they're sentient. So that's what it comes down to. Sentient beings that are primates or mammals are going to be much more, because you know why? Because the human interaction bond is so connected. That's why equine therapy is so good for people, because horses bond in with human beings.
Another one, yeah.
Right. Horses are very bonded. They smell your hand the first time. They never forget you. Right. And so you go, you see these, videos or people that have gone away from a horse for 10 years. That horse will know you by smell so fast. And if they loved you, they're on you.
But the treatment of horses generally is pretty good. And I'm generalizing, of course, because I have to.
Yes.
But it's like the relationship of people with horses and dogs is a little bit different than keeping a chimp in a basement.
Well, so that's the thing, is because, and so
you take care of people who love horses, take care of their horses.
Right. And we know people that have horses that neglect them too.
I'm sure there are.
So you have these people who have like the chimpanzees. It's like if you watch this chimp crazy show, right? That's what John was saying, is that the woman, whatever her name is, she got bit in the face by Tonka. She did get bit.
Yeah.
And she didn't get bit by Tonka. She got bit. I don't believe she got bit, John, by Tonka. She went and bought another smaller something for like a baby, and it bit her in the face. And I don't think it was because she didn't have Tonka anymore, but she just, in her obsession, she's so connected. People become so connected. And that's the thing, because these higher level cognitive sentient beings are able to bond in with you. But at the end of the day, you can't take the wild out of them. Like, I'm not going to, there's this beautiful tiger out at Wildcat Sanctuary. His name's Noah. He's the biggest tiger probably I've ever seen. He's a little heavy. He's been on a diet. So he came to them in 2023. He's one of my favorites. And he looks so soft and cuddly. And people always say, oh, I just want to. I'm like, girl, you do not want to be in that enclosure with it, because he'll eat your face off. That's what I said. You'll eat your face off.
I'm sure you've seen these reels where trainers go to big cats and the cats come up and hug them and play with them and stuff like that. And I'm always thinking in my mind, that thing would eat you in a second.
Well, and the thing is that
I mean, they love you.
So cats are and big cats and little exotics, they're very unpredictable. And I wouldn't try. So the one time I did, and I think I've told you about this, one time when I was in South Africa and I was at the lion place, it was lions and cheetahs. They warned me. They said lions are very different than cheetahs. By the way, I'll never do this again. One, because of now what I know and what I do for sanctuaries, and didn't know what I know now. They told me cheetahs will always give you a warning, which they will. And cheetahs are very different, and I felt totally fine with cheetahs. But in South Africa, by the way, you can still pay to play. And they're trying to ban that. But with the lion, I will never, ever do what I did, because it scared the yayas out of me. And John was just like doing I was like, oh, and the lions love John. I was like, you go right ahead and you do that. But I had a lion that looked through me, and all I could see in its face was, I'm going to kill you. And I thought, I'm going to die in about 3 seconds in front of this lion, because this lion's going to come right at me. And they're piercing. They just look through you. And it's like, your lunch. And there's a reason why they had a huge bucket of meat with them.
You can see predator mode.
Oh, I saw it. And I'm like, I was so uncomfortable. But with the cheetahs, I was fine. And they said cheetahs will give you roughly 2 to 3 warnings. And I'm thinking, I don't even want 1 warning. But there was never an issue cheetahs are just a very different breed, obviously. But here's the thing is, no one should be doing that. No one should be doing that. And it's not a judgment. It's just that leave the wild in the wild and let them do their thing, and appreciate them through a safari. People will often say things under conservation efforts. Oh, we're doing it for conservation. Well, conservation, and I try to explain this to people here, you can't release, once you've bred and had babies of these species, chimps, koala bear, elephant, what are you going to do? Let it out, run the streets of Boston? This doesn't work like that. You can't put it out in the wilds of New Hampshire. No. But people say, why can't you just release them or send them back to India or Russia, where they come from? because they've been domesticated to a level of like they're reliant on you to feed them, and yeah, they'd have the instincts, but they wouldn't last long. So they're trying to create education around how not to kill the rest of the population of them, which yes, that has a huge benefit. But the fact is, the breeding programs that ship off to zoo to zoo to zoo and all those things, the end of the day, we still can't release them. There's no release. There's no like, oh, you can buy one and take it home and see if like, that's not a thing. And people, but that's what the thing is. People want that. People still think that's a cool thing. And people kind of like the whole still the canned hunting thing, even here in the United States, it's like, oh, I want that trophy. I want to feel it. Like it's just the same it's the same mental health component. There's something so deeply rooted in a person who feels that need to relate and connect and or have that status because they can. It's there's money symbolism there. There's especially with exotic animals, right? And it's and unfortunately it's a multi-billion-dollar trade, and it's it's very gone. Now that the United States has put such a huge lockdown on big exotics, now it's moved offshore, so to speak, and being underground run and stuff, which it was already doing, but now it's become even tighter because of obviously the laws. But it goes back to, here's the thing with the littles. Good morning, Leanne. So here's the thing with the littles. This is why I'm trying to raise the money. I'm trying to raise the $2,500 so that the catio town out in Wildcat Sanctuary, I can give $2,500 from all of you guys. If you guys go to Venmo at Kim-Lannon and do a donation to Catio Town, so I can give a check this weekend at the 25th anniversary celebration gala for littles, because this is where it's housing all the little Asian leopard cats and the savannas that have been surrendered, and the Bengals and the servals that don't have good homes, or they've been rehomed and then they haven't been able to be taken care, or bobcats, little bobs that have medical care because they have been taken in and haven't been given, because there's places in the country that you're allowed to own a bobcat, and you have to, I know, let's have a bobcat. And you have to have, they have to have very specific diets. And if they have, muscular deterioration from childhood and babies because they weren't given the right kind of food in the carnivore diet, there's many cats I've come across both at Big Cat Rescue and Wildcat Sanctuary over the past years I've been working, that have malnutrition issues because they were being raised as vegetarians. Cats are not vegetarians. Can't
feed them Rachel Ray.
No, you can't. And they can't in that keto diet either. So and so then they have these metabolism issues and or genetic components that come with them, and it's very costly. Just to do a healthy tiger alone to feed them without.
Hopefully that flow
is $10,000.
Hopefully that flow slows, because the thing that always bothers me the most is when people take on an animal, and I see it mostly with dogs. I see it mostly with Australian Shepherds, which I've had, where they take them on and say it's just too much, and then they let them go. It's like, no, that's not the way this works.
And that's the same thing as. So you see the exact same thing with chimpanzees, and you see it with horses. You see it, because the horse trade is, oh, that horse doesn't fit me, it's not a good match, so then they sell it off to the next one. Like, the same thing. Or with dogs, unfortunately, they let them go, they tie them up in the woods, like all the stories. Cats are brutalized. Like, they get put in a bag, tossed over the side of the road, and left for dead, put in dumpsters. Like, the stories I get on a yearly now that Dr. Lannon, I know you do this other work, there's a cat in a crate next to a dumpster. There's a cat in the dumpster. There's a litter of kittens on the side of the road. What should we do? And I mean, I don't ever take them in because I'm a foster fail person. Right.
Yeah, right.
So I'm always like, here's your resource, I have now a very large list of resources in the state, but I keep saying to my friends and family, I'm like, I need to open up a sanctuary of my own here. And because there's so many needs and it's not your regular domestics. It is, but it's more about like these exotics that people take them in and go, oh, that one didn't work, so I'm going to let it go and I'll just start over. Yeah. But you just spent $5,000 on a cat or a dog, even a dog, and it's just too much. Or, certain people that wrote in their book, like, well, it wasn't a good breeding dog, so we shot it. Like what? Like what?
Yeah.
Like there's a home for that. So, and again,
That's the thing. There's so many options.
Mental health component.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I say to people in my class when I'm teaching about like raising children, there should be parenting classes starting early on, like in 7th and 8th grade, about how to be in the world as an adult, as a parent, as a relational person, which they don't teach because, of course, some people think that that's inappropriate. No, it's like, it's really important information, because I can't tell you how many hundreds of people over 30 years and 20 years of teaching that have said to me, I wish I knew what you taught us in this class for parenting in psychology, because I wouldn't have done these things with my kids, because they don't know. Same thing with, I wish I had known and had the education around animals. And the vet trade has changed its tone and trend about educating people more on like animal care. And, dogs, cats, and all the other interesting animals that have come through. It's a big business now, huge, and multi-billion-dollar business. And I think that, unfortunately, one of the downsides, mental health wise, around people having these is like, during the pandemic, here's a big hit. And this is where I think we saw a lot of littles come into the sanctuaries, and the need for like Catio Town and being out in Minnesota. And there's another one in Oregon, by the way, Wildcat Ridge Sanctuary. They're not affiliated, but they know each other really well. But is that when the pandemic hit, people got bored, and people got like, I'll get another cat, I'll get another puppy, I'll get another whatever. And then what happened? Now they had to go back to work and all this stuff. And now these cats, puppies, whatever, now bigger. Now people don't want them, or people surrender them, or people put them out.
It's like the Easter rabbits.
Yeah, that's why I love the fact that now, at least here, especially in Massachusetts, and I love this about this, Halloween time, there's no adoption of any cats, especially black cats, going in and coming out of that time. Christmas time, it goes down. It's a tight ship on that.
Yep.
And then for
animals as Christmas presents.
Animals as Christmas presents. Yeah. It's just like, or New Year's or engagement presents. People are very well vetted around that, because they're one hit wonders for like the time that they're little, and then it's like, oh, this is expensive. Yeah. So it's just like having kids. You have to be able to put in the full commitment, and if the full commitment is that you have it, and then it's your prerogative, yes, to let your animal outside. But if you put in that, and that's your full-time commitment, maybe that's not the type of animal you should have. Because you're not putting your kid outside. Well, maybe some people are, but it's the same thing. It's like, you're not doing that, but people don't see it the same way. And I wish that people would sort of have a better cognitive view of the fact that when you have a sentient being, which means a thinking, feeling, cognitive being, that there would be more of that. And I don't know if we're going to get that any time in my lifetime completely, but it's definitely changed. But it's, again, going back to not having cynicism, having hope. So I did say something cynical, but I'm cautiously optimistic that we have a trend going towards, let's do the right thing. I have no faith that this woman's going to do the right thing, but the woman I was talking about at the beginning, but just in the first interaction, and hopefully the only ever interaction I ever have to have with her ever again. But God bless her that she loves the cat. The cat clearly had some kind of bond with her. I can only imagine what her arms and her legs look like. But it's just, at the end of the day, it's like, be hopeful that maybe people, do the right thing. And if you, don't, just rescue. There's so many cats out there, and dogs and bunnies and whatever that need rescue. And it's just such a healthier thing. But people, it's an extension. It's like buying a truck. It's an extension of your ego, and so are cats and chimps and horses and whales. Not that anyone I know owns a whale, but you know what I'm saying? It's just that, it's that thing. It's, how many, or it's like owning cars. How many cars can you accumulate that are high end? And, if you have the money and the status, you got the ability to do it. But at the end of the day, why?
But I think the good deed thing is something you evolve as you get older. And I think you've done it. Like, take the cats, for example.
Yeah.
You don't spend as much time, I imagine, tell me if I'm wrong, advocating, working against people who have the cats to get cats from them.
No.
You're taking care of the cats that have
Right.
been let go. So
Right.
you're affecting the change and doing good work where you can, as opposed to fighting a battle that you can't win.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and so there are so many people that do a really good job of having their cats and giving the forever home to the fur baby that they have, which whether it's an exotic or not, dogs too. But then it's where the line gets blurry or very clear that they have it to have it, and it's just like a showpiece.
It's kind of back to the radical acceptance show that we did.
Yep.
You're accepting the fact that people own these, some do well with them.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of control over that,
right.
But the ones that are abandoned, I can help take care of.
And I think that, so speaking of radical acceptance and talking about hopefulness, is that 15 years ago, I probably would have been a puddle of tears going, oh, this poor cat, after, of like, oh, I wasn't able to help it because this woman shouldn't have, and I'm so, because of the work I've done with Big Cat Rescue and Carol and Tammy and all that stuff and all the people around it, you come to a point where you're like, you accept very specifically that there's way more people that do all the right things. And then there's those people that don't. And those are the places where you have to sort of be like, okay, you have to step in where you can, and you have to be able to help where you can. And then you have to accept where you can't. It's like the serenity prayer. God give me the wisdom to
accept the things I can't change.
And know the difference, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where it's such a big difference. And if people come to that, that's great. But if you're out there trying to help people, just remember, do it for the help of the animal, not for the fact that you're going to be giving gratitude. Or don't look for gratitude and don't look for like a thanks, because knowing that you're just doing it for that you're just doing it for the right thing and the right reason, and keep hopeful, because you're going to run into, I think, more people. I run into more people that have the hopeful fill in my heart, in my cup, fill up the cup about like the right thing versus, the cringeworthy ones. The cringeworthy ones always get me though. And I think Tammy, you remember Tammy and I had that conversation. It's a lot, and we accept that people are where they're at. And there's nothing wrong with people owning them as long as they know how to take care of them. And if you want to let your cat out, and I did say that to the woman. I said, you want to let your cat out, that's fine. Because she was all about like, oh, you don't want, I'm like, I don't care if you let your cat out. We just want to make sure it had an owner, so that it wasn't just abandoned, didn't have anybody taking care of it. And she took offense to that. Like, I don't know you, lady. So I'm trying to help you. So again,
and like you said, these notes are going around for weeks.
Right. And that was the thing that was concerning, because no one was acting on it prematurely to try to just like take this cat. It was the fact that it had been going on for almost 6 weeks. And then it finally came down to, oh, well, in 6 weeks' time, not one person has come out to help. So, or to claim this cat. So why can't we help this cat? And I'm just checking into see that, nobody has given anything to my Venmo account yet. So that's sad. So I'm going to give another plug to the fact that I am talking today about the mental health components of owning your extension of yourself to have bonds with things other than people, which is animals. And if you want to help out animals that don't have people that give the love, affection, and the home that they need, given that they have chosen to purchase them, I'm raising money for the sanctuary, Wildcat Sanctuary. They didn't ask me to do this. I'm doing this as a kindness, because they have built a huge enclosure for many rehomed or released or abandoned or injured or sick littles. So Asian leopard cats, servals, Savannah cats, and Bengals, and others. A fishing cat, not a fisher cat, a fishing cat. It's an interesting type of cat.
Yeah.
So giving and little bobcats, because they're the ones that are currently not protected in the same way now that big cats are. And so if you could go to my Venmo and do a $5, $25, I'm trying to raise $2,500 in the next 3 days to give to the 25th anniversary of the sanctuary, and they're building this catio town out in Minnesota. Please go to @Kim-Lannon put in the memo Catio Town or donation for Catio Town. If you need verification afterwards of a receipt, I can certainly get you one to verify that you gave to a charity, because it's not going to me. I'm just trying to collectively do it so I can give one lump sum to Tammy, who's the founder, and do something nice for them to complete Catio Town. So I have till Saturday to do this particular gift, because that's when I'll see her to do that. So, but please note that. And the other thing is, in closing, for getting ready to close out the show, is just really talking about, doing good things for good people and doing good things for anybody, even if you don't know them. Do it from your heart without want for recognition or for the pat on the back. Sometimes you get it and that's great, but sometimes you don't. And just doing the good deed, that is where the acceptance came, is I knew that I did all the right steps and did the good deed. And even the animal control officers were like, you did a good thing, even though
everyone took care of the cat.
Right. There were a lot of people involved in this, and I just happened to be the end of the road to do it. But they did the right thing. And I think that's great. And we have more and more awareness about that. So I was going to say funny. So if you're on any of those sites with me and you want me to help you, don't ask me.
Yeah, don't get me involved.
Don't ask me. Just don't ask me, because I'm a sucker to help. And I'll be like, oh, fine, I'll come help. But, I'm always like waiting to see the other person jump in first. I'm like, oh, get someone else.
Well, that was legitimate, because if the person's involved with the cat, especially the $5,000 cat, it's like, no, she's fine. She's not to a cat. Yep. Everything's good.
And that's what she said.
Come every night.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, that's good.
Yep.
That's totally.
But that
fine.
would have alleviated this whole thing.
And had she seen, because she insisted.
Because when you release it, you're giving it to the neighborhood.
Well,
so
that's the
you got to
thing.
accept that.
Well, and that's the thing that I don't think she sees, and I think she hides behind the fact that, and I don't know this. I'll have to talk to my friend Kathy about this, but my friend Kathy lives in Florida, right? And I have another friend, Candy, that lives in Florida, and I have another friend, Paula, who lives in Florida. So two of them are indoor cats. That's it, whatever. And one of them is indoor, and then she takes care of cats that are just predominantly outside. But they started that way, they stay that way.
Yeah.
But she takes excellent care of them. So those are people that they get it. And I don't know I don't think that's just a Florida thing. I think whatever. But the woman was like all about like, well, in Florida, everybody lets their cats out. I don't know if that's true.
But that's not the issue.
And that's not right. In Florida, well, there's alligators, and there's bobcat and other things, but it's more about the fact that, well, yeah, but here,
wild hogs.
Well, one of the concerns was for people online was, oh my God, it gets cold. I'll tell you that these little exotics, they do fine in the cold. Yeah. Cats are really good at making their ability to be in the cold fine because of their way that they regulate, especially if they've been outdoor cats. They know how to do that. Dogs don't do that as well, but cats do. So that wasn't a concern, but people were all about that, between that it being a cheetah and killing everything, so that people needed to take it out. I'm like,
but I tend to look at kill this cat. Has a collar, looks well maintained, right. Probably okay.
Right. Yeah. Well, it didn't. So big mistake, and she wasn't listening to this. I'm like, you should put an identifying collar on it. Like, here's Gracie. It lives, or the phone number, just like a dog tag, so that people like know, instead of just this big honking tracker, which that I knew somebody owned the cat because it had a tracker. It was just no one was responding for 6 weeks. And so it was like, let's find who owns it. Maybe it got out. Maybe they're looking for it. Maybe they're older. We all thought maybe the person was older and was not on social media. Yep. But she wasn't having any of the excuses. So whatever.
Well, again, her context was the last conflict about this.
Well, her context with that. And I think there was just context of her own mental health component prior to that anyway. Yep. So I can just tell. And there were other stories that I will never share on air that I had found out about the situation. Okay. I was like, oh, well, that explains a lot of this. So, but that's why I brought it up as a mental health component, because it was an unfortunate situation that has money backing it. And unfortunately, that's sometimes what happens. And that's why no good deed goes unpunished. I'm just going to be happy with my little cats at home and whatever. So anyway, one last time, please help me out to help the Wildcat Sanctuary. It's a 501c3. You can look them up. Tammy Thies. You can go back and look at some of my podcasts with her to hear about her talk about this catio town. I'm just trying to help raise $2,500 because it's the 25th anniversary of the sanctuary. She does amazing work up in Minnesota. She's just a great advocate for cats and all animals in general, not just cats. And she's very down to earth, and she does the right thing and does right by people and their animals. Just trying to get $2,500. So $5, 25, 100, 250 increments of anything with 2 and 5, anything fun, play with it. But go to my Venmo at Kim-Lannon at Catio Town. It's a one and done this week. I'm just doing this as a quick thing because I'm going to see her, and I would love for everybody in my cat world to just reach into their pocket and do a little quick help for the littles out there. And I'll let you know how it goes, and hopefully I, raise it. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I will be back here next week to update you on Wildcat Sanctuary and on a new topic about, living your best life. Thank you.